Come and sit, talk for a while. Say what you mean, nothing too high. I can see that shine in your eye, laughing out loud with your beautiful smile.
Welcome back to Frederick's 5 Cent Philosophers Podcast. I'm Jason.
I'm Jazz.
And we have another guest for you this week. But before we get to our guest, we want to introduce our drink of the show. And this is our first sponsored drink of the show, Clinky. This is from Dragon Distillery. We thank them very much for providing these drinks for us. This is a Dragon Mule.
This is pie?
Dragon's Pie.
Dragon's Pie. Anything with pie in it is good. So.
And mule is gingery. This is good. This is a good mule.
Oh, wow. That's like a key lime heaven.
So this episode is brought to you by Dragon Distillery, and they're over there on Hughes Ford. It's near the airport. On the way to the airport, you can the Frederick Airport here. You can.
Are they next to Bellis's?
No, that's across the way. This is right next to the airport.
Okay.
Hughes Ford Road. A nice place there. I went in and checked it out, and it was pretty cool. Pretty cool spot. They had people inside, people outside. They had cocktails like this, or you can buy their alcohol to go.
Do they have growlers, or they have growlers where they sell it in? Or?
Not growlers like you would for beer, but it's something similar. So you can take, so you can
spirits.
For the cocktails, they have cans of cocktails.
Do they sell their
liquor?
They
the liquor as bottles, well. Yeah. So it was
cool.
a really cool spot, and these are pretty good.
Yeah, they're delicious.
Dragon Mule. And like we said, we have someone special today. We have a guest.
Yeah. One more question about Dragon Distillery. Do
Sure.
you have a place where you can go up to the bar? Or,
Yep.
Or
They have a couple of bars.
They have food or food trucks or something? Or?
Yes.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, they do have some offerings right there. So we'll have the link to their website in the show notes. So you just look down below the video, and we'll have a link to their spot there.
Awesome. So I mean to cut you off. So we're gonna have our guest on today. He's Chris from Perfect Little Bites. He lives right down here on East Street, right off of East Street. And he actually used to live on the same street me and Jason used to live on, 5th Street. I don't know if you knew he was our neighbor.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. So he just lived a couple houses down from us about 10 years ago. So ever since then, he actually knew my wife first, Stacy. But he's a great guy, and we're excited to have him on today.
Well, we're back here with our friend Chris, and he's going to tell us about his favorite place in Frederick. What's your favorite place in Frederick?
I'd say my favorite place is Olive&Basket, which is an oil and vinegar and a specialty food item store. So they sell spices and condiments and everything that makes my life as a chef easier.
Cool. It's down by Westview, right?
Yeah. They've been there for, I don't know, probably close to 10 years now.
But earlier it was under a different name?
They were Oil and Vinegar, which is part of a small chain, I guess. And then they kind of wanted to go out on their own, so they did a big rebranding maybe 3 years ago.
Yeah, I've heard of it. So that was good for me to zero in on the name change. That way I know I can place it.
Yeah, it's really hard, I think, when you have a business and then you change your name and trying to get people to understand that you're the same people who own it, same products, just different name.
Right.
And what was the name again? I missed it.
Olive&Basket.
Olive&Basket.
So you brought some pictures for us to take a look at. Mm-hmm. And what are we looking at now?
So that is their wall of flavored vinegars. So besides traditional things like balsamic, they have a lot of infused vinegars. So there's a tomato pulp vinegar, there's a Greek seasoning vinegar, there's a lemon vinegar. So, in the picture there you can see there's probably 20 plus different flavored vinegars you can pick.
Nice.
And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. You can sample them?
So sampling right now is a little weird because of COVID. So they were just given the okay to start sampling again. But what they're doing is they'll give you a sample cup and you can go outside and do it. And try it, but usually they have a big island with all the oils and vinegars and little sample cups, and you can try everything.
Cool. In the past, had they done like a little piece of bread or something like that? Or
they have bread for the oil, or you can just do a little spoon. So
nice.
It's like a little meal going and eating all that bread and oil.
Yeah, that's nice. So what are we looking at now?
So that's their spice wall. So they have a lot of spices. So they have some things that are under their own brand with their own labeling. And then they have other spices like there's a company called Spiceology. So they have a couple of their spice blends in there. So they really focus on high quality products. You know, the big thing is they're really working with smaller producers and people who are just kind of making the best products out there.
Is Spiceology Frederick?
No, Spiceology is a huge brand that a lot of chefs use. And now they're starting to get out more into the public. But they source responsibly and just like super high quality spices.
It's kind of like a chef's secret now that's getting out.
Yeah, and they've done a lot this past year with like competitions. Like they sent me a big sample box of like 20 spices and they had a competition and the top 100 entrants are actually going into a cookbook and I'm one of them. But that's one of the things they do is like sending out a bunch of samples to chefs to try and get them to create dishes with them.
That's cool. Sweet. So this is this one here?
Yeah, and as you can see from that shot, that's kind of a wider shot of most of their condiment specialty items. They have things like caramel sauces, pasta sauces. They have dried pastas, some really fun stuff like chimichurri sauce, hot sauce, Run Amok brand maple syrup, which is a really high quality maple syrup.
Nice.
So again, like really nice specialty products that you're not going to find in like a regular grocery store.
I like this apron here. Do they have it for sale?
Yeah, they do. Sweet. They have a lot of Maryland stuff in there. I mean, you got to represent.
So all this food, is that, I know you mentioned earlier that you did some classes there. You actually show some, do they have a place where you can actually go in there and eat stuff? Or no, it's just special times when they have courses
there? So they
were
doing cooking workshops in their place after hours and they would sell tickets. So I went in maybe 6 times. So we would pick a different theme like, you know, Mexican or Italian or salads. And I would go through the store and talk to them about kind of the items that they wanted highlighted. And then I would put together 4 or 5 dishes and people would come in and they'd get to try the dishes. And then, you know, hopefully for the store, they would go and buy some stuff afterwards.
That's cool.
Neat. So we have this one.
And then those are the oils. Okay. So again, they have some really traditional oils. I was just in there today and I had a Spanish olive oil, which had like a nice little bit of spice to it. And then I ended up actually purchasing a Greek olive oil that's kind of light and grassy. And again, like the vinegars, they have a lot of flavored ones. My favorite is a Meyer lemon oil. So when I do like Middle Eastern things, like I'll drizzle it on top. So I'll do feta and lebna spread and then just finish it with this nice Meyer lemon oil. But they have, you know, spicy harissa oils, all kinds of different flavored ones. And, you know, the nice thing is for a salad, we just drizzle like oil and vinegar on our salads at home. We don't even necessarily make a vinaigrette. And the vinegars are so good, we don't always even use oil. Like if you want to cut a little fat and calories out, the vinegars are so nice that just like,
that's all you need.
A pour of the vinegar on there is really good.
I know Jason's always that's all he's ever eats is balsamic and right.
Yeah, I like good oil and vinegar.
Yeah.
I mean, this
is the place to go.
Yep, definitely.
You don't need other salad dressings basically, right? That's all you ever eat.
I always mix fresh.
And I make dressings with it too. Yeah. I do make vinaigrettes, and it's just amazing how easy it is to make a dressing. I don't know, people buying these like thick, goopy, mass-produced kind of gross dressings in the store. Like, I don't know, just go buy oil and vinegar.
Yeah, make it at home. That's what this show's about, homemade.
Yeah. Make it at home.
And if you can source it locally, I mean, we don't have a whole lot of olive trees growing here, but but at least you can get it from a local business.
And they try and buy locally made products as well. Yeah. So I mean, obviously not everything's going to be locally made, but as much as they can, if it's a quality product, they try to put that in the shop.
Sorry to cut you off. Might not be able to get the vinegars here, but certainly you could grow the grapes for the vinegar. The olive oil would be tough to grow the olives locally.
Yeah, well, in making vinegar, I've made vinegar, if you start with a good vinegar that has the mother in it, it's kind of like making kombucha because it grows the mother, and then you can just start putting your own stuff in. Yeah. So
that was on our episode 3.
You can't necessarily make from scratch, but you can use that as a good starting point.
Yeah.
I've made some really weird beer vinegars using stuff from Flying Dog before.
Awesome.
Where do you get your mother for the vinegar?
I just buy one with a live mother in it. So like if you go to the store, almost every store, like you go to Wegmans,
like Bragg's, they'll have one in there.
But even now, like Wegmans brand and Aldi brand have live vinegar with the mother in it. Okay. And then
do your own thing.
Balancing the first couple batches, right? Because like I'll do like a beer vinegar and putting the beer in. If you put too much in, you could actually kill it. So it's like finding the balance.
So I'm picking up on a theme here. You're talking about chefing.
Yeah, chefing.
So let's just go right into that.
Okay.
What's your main deal then?
So I'm a personal chef. I've been cooking since I was 16, and it's all I've ever wanted to do. And I've
That's because you're I didn't mean to cut you off, Ian, but your mother was a little ill when you were growing up, and you
yeah. Well, that was one thing. I was a little fat kid, so I loved eating. But I've said, I'm fortunate that my mom stayed home with me until I was in 6th grade, and just my dad worked, and he worked at Sears, so he did nights. So I was like, well, half nights. So like 3 nights a week it was just my mom and myself, but I had to go grocery shopping with her every week. So I helped her pick out menu items, and she showed me how to shop.
And how young were you?
I mean, I had to start going to the store with her from like when I was born, like 4, on. But when I was 11, my mom slipped a disc in her back and was in bed for like 4 months. And I took over all the dinner cooking at home. My dad was not a cook. And again, like he was out half of the week. So I would sit in bed with my mom. We'd make a shopping list together based on what was on sale from the grocery shopping circulars.
Just real quick, it kind of reminds me of you. When your parents worked a lot, and you kind of had to prepare dinners at a very young age too, right?
I similarly, I kind of developed a love for cooking in a similar way, yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So I was cooking dinners, and it wasn't always fancy. But I helped a lot during that time. Just middle school when we had to do woodworking, computers, cooking, all that. Like cooking is what I was drawn to, and then high school I started doing it, and it's just all I've ever wanted to do.
So it's led to a business.
It's led to a business. I mean, I always thought it would be cool to have a restaurant, right? But like that's super expensive and not really realistic. Like I don't know how anyone makes money. Like the overhead of having the business, the staff, all that stuff. But I also don't really like the hours and all the nonsense that comes with it. Like I've always wanted work-life balance, which I think is really hard in food service. So I've always taken like the corporate route. I've been a chef with IKEA, working in their restaurant. I've worked a catering department in a hospital. I've worked contract food service for Sodexo. I've literally never worked in a restaurant except fast food when I was a teenager. So I decided I wanted to be a personal chef and bring like the restaurant experience to people. So that was something like 10 years ago I started doing on the side, and just thought like instead of doing the meal prep type thing that a lot of personal chefs do, why couldn't I just go to someone's house and do like a really cool dinner party and cook for like as little as 2 people up to like a max of 20 and kind of like micro catering,
Cool. Yeah, that's a neat idea. Now you're in Frederick.
Yeah.
I guess the show's about people in Frederick doing things locally. And so I'm sure a lot of your business is in Frederick, but you probably get out further than Frederick County.
I do like a 70 to 80 mile radius of Frederick. Yeah. Actually, Frederick was very late to start hiring me. I started in Northern Virginia and DC, and I think it's the trickle down effect of like the suburbs. I don't even think people still know you can hire a personal chef to come to your house. Like in DC, you can hire people to do anything, right? So people go on the internet and search for in-home chef. It's like the food trucks. We've only had food trucks legal here like 4 years now in Frederick, which is like 20 years behind big cities. So I just think naturally people were looking for it in the bigger market, and now, as I continue,
now you get gigs here.
Now as I start to push it out there, Frederick, especially for whatever reason, I don't know why, this past year, the pandemic, Frederick supported me completely. Like I haven't cooked in DC or like Alexandria in a year and a half, and I have no idea why. Like that was my main business, and like the switch just flipped, and it was all Frederick County for the past year and a half, which is good because who wants to commute anyway?
Right. Very nice. Very nice. So if someone wanted to check you out, where would they find you?
My business is Perfect Little Bites, so I'm everywhere, but perfectlittlebites.com is my website, and Perfect Little Bites.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Perfect Little Bites on Instagram. I have a Facebook page, so you can find it all there.
Sure, we'll put that in the show notes.
A couple things of what you said earlier. Sorry, I was checking my mic. I think the flip from the city to out here, I think it's probably because of COVID. People in the city are probably a lot more scared. It seems to me people in the city, in the closer areas, are more scared about it than people out here that have maybe more space or...
Well, and technically there were even travel restrictions. I mean, at many times it was like you weren't allowed to go from state to state. I mean, technically I'd be crossing from Maryland into Virginia or Maryland into DC. I don't know. I just think people were more conservative about that.
I think Frederick people just wanted to support the local businesses. I think. I mean, maybe, I know we always tried to get food from the local restaurants. the non-chain places. When the lockdowns happened, we made an effort to every week get at least one meal or more from we live downtown, so we tried to get to the local downtown places and support them. And I think Frederick does that well. I think Frederick tries to support local people, and hopefully, that'll continue for you.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of, Alexandria, Virginia, they were probably supporting their local restaurants
Right.
as opposed to having me come in. So the whole dynamic has shifted.
Yeah.
It'll be really interesting to see how things change or what sticks around.
Yeah. We've had Chris come over our house before, and it's delicious. I mean, he does. So he comes in. He sends you a menu of options that you can choose. It's like 30. I don't know how much is it, but there's like 30 different menu options, like for each one. First course, second course, third course, fourth course. I think it's 4 course.
Yeah.
So it's all different options. And then he comes. He brings all the dishes, whatever he needs to cook it. He cooks it for you on your own schedule. He cleans up all the dishes and takes it all with him. So there's literally nothing you have to do. You basically open the door, he comes in, he cooks everything for you, and he leaves without a mess. I mean, for me, it's way better than going out to a restaurant. You don't have to leave your house. You don't have to clean up anything.
That's what I'm going for.
I didn't even give him a tip. So no, I'm just kidding. I gave him a tip.
Well, I mean, I'm very into building community. So, I mean, we haven't mentioned that I have this organization and podcast called Chefs Without Restaurants.
That's right.
And the idea being, it started as a networking organization, but more of a community to connect people. What I found is that, the food world, as big as it is also very small. And it was like, I'd be coming to your house on Friday night, and then, Jason would call me and want to hire me, and I'm busy. So, like, I could just say, sorry, I'm busy, or I could pass that along to someone in my network, right? And at the same time, there's a lot of platforms coming out and tech guys building these platforms where they're taking a cut of it. And it's like, well, if we have enough people on our own platform and it's free, then we don't need to pay them. So it was a way to like undercut them and put the money back in the pockets of the people working in the community. And I built this thing that I thought was like going to be 4 people that I knew personally, and now we have literally thousands of members all over the world. I mean, we're over 4,000 Instagram followers, and they're not just people who follow, but engaged members of the community. So we're food truckers, personal chefs, research and development chefs, distillers. So that turned into a podcast, and this week I just dropped episode 90, and every week I talk to cool people in the food and beverage world doing really interesting stuff.
Yeah, that's Chefs Without Restaurants.
Yeah.
And so I don't know where we're going with that.
So the podcast we'll have in the show notes also. That's cool. That's really neat. So you have people locally, you're saying, when you're busy, you're able to shift off some of the work and help them out, and then vice versa. If they're busy on a weekend and you just don't happen to have anyone on a Friday night or a Sunday night or whatever.
And the best thing is you can play off each other's specialties. Yeah. So like, I don't do big parties at all. So if someone wants me to cater their 100-person wedding, like, I don't touch that at all. But Canapés in Frederick is a business that's what they do. Right. But if you called Canapés to do a dinner for 2, that might not be their thing either. And hopefully they'll send that to me.
Yeah.
Sure.
So getting to know everyone, what they do, what their specialties are. But I'm growing the network so big that now I'm getting asked to find connections in places like Denver. Like, someone will say, do you know a personal chef in Denver? So I've had to build this database with location details and everything about the chefs. And it's hard because I don't know them personally, haven't tried their food, but you just hope that they're gonna at least be a better option than no option. So trying to build that out where I can also connect people in other parts of the country.
Cool.
Very cool.
That sounds good. So the Perfect Little Bites. And the podcast is
Chefs Without Restaurants.
Restaurants.
Yep.
Cool. We'll have that both in the show notes. Well, thanks for coming on, man, talking to us about this.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so. If you don't have any questions, I mean, I could talk all day.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chefs Without Restaurants is a database of all kinds of knowledge. I mean, you had some 3-hour episodes, I believe,
it's part like how I built this, and it's also part storytelling. So like, some people are going to come on, like we had Jared from Bubba Q. He's here in Frederick. He has a food truck, and we talked about the ins and outs of barbecue. But a lot of it is like, how he's now at Old Mother. So it's like, how did you build that relationship where now you're the exclusive food truck for Old Mother? You know, how do you price your menu items? What are some of your challenges? So if you're looking to start a food truck, that's beneficial, but it's also like a Frederick local telling their story. But then we had people who come on who aren't going to teach you anything. I had a culinary historian, and he worked as a historical interpreter at Colonial Williamsburg, and he's African American and really wanted to show what it was like to be a person of that time cooking food on the plantation. And it's just a really interesting story to listen to him talk for an hour.
You also learn some stuff.
Oh, you can learn a ton of stuff.
But not cooking, not cooking based.
But it's not an actionable
I got you.
how to do this.
Yeah.
So the podcast kind of has two different
and
aspects.
other ones you've done are like distillery ones or...
So I had Mark, who was the distiller at 10th Ward on. He came, he actually brought his absinthe drip, and we had some absinthe, and basically we had all their spirits. And we talked for a couple hours. And while it's Chefs Without Restaurants, I do still love chefs who are in restaurants. So we had like Christian, who's the executive chef at Hooch and Banter, and he came and we just talked about the restaurant industry. But that was during the height of COVID, so we were talking a lot about the shutdown, how that was affecting them, what their plan was going to be to kind of get people back in the doors, and that was like just as it had started. So I try and have as many local people as I can, and then a good mix of other people from around the country I want to talk to.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Sounds great. Well, we thank you, Chris, for coming by.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.
We want to highlight our event of the week. We have the farmers market is back. So in downtown Frederick, they started this past weekend and they'll go till November. And we just wanted to highlight that and highlight the fact that they'll be there on Saturday. I think it's May 8th, from 10 to 1. And so check out the farmers market in downtown Frederick.
Yeah, be sure to stop by Pleasant Hill Produce. That's one of our good friends, Ben. So,
Sailor.
Yep, Sailors. Yep.
Sounds good. Well, we'll see you later, Frederick. Thanks for stopping by.
See ya.
Beautiful smile. I can only really know those real eyes close. They take that away, but I miss it the most. I'll give you all I can give. There's no better way to live. I'll give you all I can give. There's no better way to live.